welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks. It is Monday evening, the 6th day of December 2021. Hope you and yours had a good weekend. Today was a bumpy ride weather-wise. We're going to review today and talk about the snow opportunities we have ahead of us this week. But the headline to this video is, this is an update to our annual winter forecast. About a month ago, I, as I always do in late October or early November, did the overall forecast for meteorological winter, December, January, and February. And we said, hey, in about a month, we'll do an update to this like we've done over the last few years. Well, a month has gone by. It's time to talk about the forecast and what changes we have to make to that forecast as we've gotten into the first week of the season. And I was looking back at my original forecast on my weather blog, again, from about a month ago. And one thing stood out is this caveat I put in the forecast right here. You know, my forecast was not nearly as cold as many forecasts I've seen. It was kind of middle of the road, with the idea being a fast start to winter in December, and then probably a pretty big thaw and a pretty warm end of the season in February. Even though my forecast was kind of middle of the road, I did put in a caveat saying, hey, this certain aspect, this cooled pool of water in the Northeast Pacific has me a bit nervous that it's very similar to 10 years ago, 2011, 2012, which was a very mild winter in our part of the country. I'm not saying that we're going to have a redo of 2011, 2012, but the overall flavor of this winter is trending certainly more in that direction than some of the colder flavors that we've seen in some of our analog years. Here's our list of the analogs we used for the winter forecast. And just a reminder, in case you're new to this, analogs are years in the past that had similar setups in the atmosphere and the oceans to the fall and early winter season for this time around. Here was the list of most similar years. No analog is perfect, but this was the list of top years. A few of these were cold winters. A couple of these were snowy winters, including the snowiest winter on record for us, 2010, 2011. But at the bottom of the list, on the list, was that winter of 2011, 2012, which was almost 5 degrees warmer than the average. Now, while the snow was below average, it wasn't crazy below average. 56.5 is, 6 or 7 below average for 10 years ago. It's a little more below average now because our snow averages have gone up with the latest set of averages. But anyway, that winter was a warm winter, and again, things are trying to trend in that direction. One of the key components, as I mentioned, this pool of water in the Northeast Pacific that's cold. This is your La Nina signature right here, this tongue of cold water across the equatorial Pacific. But this area of blue in the Northeastern Pacific, I think, has been influencing weather patterns in North America to a large extent for a lot of the fall season, and we're seeing evidence of that as we go into the winter season. And this is something that is a little unusual. We've seen it a couple of times before, but not very often, where you have this kind of a La Nina signature, and then you have accompanying that a pretty stout pool of cold water in the Gulf of Alaska, Northeastern Pacific. A lot of times you see some cool water up there in a La Nina, but the degree of how cold it is up there is a little unusual for sure. So this was the original winter forecast, again, about a month ago, highlighting we're favoring warmer than average temperatures along the East Coast, into the Southeast, cooler than average temperatures in the northern tier of states, back into the Pacific Northwest. And for us, I kind of suspected it would come out in the wash as pretty close to average, factoring in a cold December and a warm February and lots of back and forth in January. The idea of a cold December is not happening. In fact, it's the opposite. And so we have a very unusual situation unfolding where we have this set of ingredients and the outcome being a warm December. Usually with the set of ingredients that we have, December ends up being pretty cold. But not this year. This is our updated temperature forecast for the entire winter season. So you'll notice we've backed all that warmth much farther to the north and to the west. Now, this is not to say that it's just going to run the table and be abnormally mild the whole winter. In fact, I think there could be a period of pretty good cold in January, maybe even very late December. But winter, the whole shooting match might be the first couple of weeks of January, if, as I suspect, we have some pretty good shots of cold in that first couple of weeks. This forecast may end up being all right. If that doesn't come to fruition, that may be our best chance of severe cold this winter, is that first couple weeks of January. If that doesn't come to fruition, then this forecast probably is still not quite aggressive enough with the warmth. So, the story of winter may be told during that first couple of weeks of January, whether it gets pretty harsh or not. We haven't really touched the precipitation forecast. This is the same map I showed you about a month ago, still favoring near to somewhat above average precipitation. When things line up right, when you do get a cold shot accompanying these plumes of precipitation, yeah, we're going to see snow. We're going to see mixed precipitation. We're not calling the winter off by any stretch. We're going to have our snow and our cold. And overall, I'll show you some numbers in a second. The snow totals may not be all that far below average for the winter, despite the overall warm flavor of things. So, putting some odds on the various outcomes here. These numbers have changed, of course, since our initial winter forecast. Now, by far and away, the highest odds, temperature-wise, are for warmer than average, is for a warmer than average winter, with basically a 60% chance of it being warmer than average and a 15% chance of it being cooler than average, and about a 25% chance that it ends up straddling average on a little bit on one side or the other. When it comes to snowfall, we think the strongest odds are actually near average snowfall. Basically a 25% chance of it being an above average season for snowfall, and about a 40% or a 35% chance of it being below average. But the highest odds overall are pretty close to average, because I think precipitation will be plentiful. We just have to have the cold to accompany that precipitation, of course, to get some snow. Compared to last year, here's where we stand. A little bit snowier than last year, probably. Last year, our number at the airport was like 55. That ended up being about 10 inches shy of average. A little bit more this winter, but temperatures probably warmer than last winter as a whole. All right, let's move on from the winter forecast before this video gets away from me and gets to be too long. Of course, today was a wild day. We had falling temperatures. We had gusty winds. The max wind gust at the airport was 40 miles per hour this afternoon, creating wind chills that were in the 20s after air temperatures were in the 50s at the start of the day. And with this cold air mass blowing over the Great Lakes, we're seeing the lake effect machine firing up. We've already seen a few random flurries north of Interstate 80 this evening. The more substantial bands are up over the lake, aimed more at the I-90 corridor and into western New York. Monday Night Football tonight's in Buffalo. That's going to be interesting viewing. Buffalo taking on New England up in southern Buffalo. So accumulations tonight, easily the highest odds to our north, western New York, northwest PA, the I-90 corridor, especially from Ashtabula to Erie, heading right up through the Buffalo area. But in our TV viewing area, I can't rule out someone trying to get an inch, maybe in far northern Trumbull and Mercer, but you'll notice the odds never really get above 40% of that occurrence of 1 inch or more worth of snow up there. All right, kind of a dirty high tomorrow. What I mean by that? Well, usually when Big Blue H is on the weather map, you have clear skies, but sometimes in the winter season, high pressure doesn't do a whole lot for us as far as clearing out the sky. Gloomy Tuesday on the way tomorrow. Our coldest afternoon of the season so far. Now, not in terms of wind chills, because the wind won't be strong tomorrow with this high building in, but the air temperature might not get out of the 20s tomorrow afternoon. And then, some snowflakes grazing us tomorrow night into early Wednesday. Now, a week ago, some of the models were trying to spin up a pretty good storm for the middle of this week. We told you, of course, we'd keep an eye on it. And as it turns out, as we've gotten closer and closer to this event, it really is not much at all. But we'll get grazed by a little snow early Wednesday, and then the sky will try to clear Wednesday afternoon. Thursday probably starts with some sun, and then clouds will thicken again in the afternoon. For that tomorrow night and early Wednesday system, I don't think it's much. Most of our models are really backing off and probably under an inch. All the models are basically showing under an inch at this point. So our official forecast, highest odds, I'm going to say half an inch to an inch as far as the highest odds. 20% chance, though, you basically get a trace or a little candy coating or zero. And only a 10% chance that this overachieves and you get up to 2 inches. Can't totally rule that out, but I think the odds of that are definitely slipping away. Speaking of slipping away, the cold's going to slip away for a little while late this week. Wow, is this impressive. Into the 50s Friday, and the record high Saturday is 61. We'll probably break that by at least a degree, maybe even a few degrees. And then a cold front comes through. Rain Saturday. Despite how warm it's going to be Saturday, it's going to rain at times. The rain may end as a period of wet snow or mixed precipitation early in the day on Sunday. And look at the 8 to 14 day map. It's not often you see this kind of blood red, basically meaning it is a guarantee that it is going to be warmer than average next week everywhere east of the Rockies. I mean, impressive looking mid-December stuff coming our way for next week. Beyond that, the pattern, still some lower confidence as we get closer to Christmas and New Year's. Some of the modeling wants to bring in some cold finally by around Christmas. But the consensus of the modeling right now is to hang on to the general warmth through the end of the month. That's the consensus. Not every single piece of information has that, but that's where the odds are right now. But our confidence on the weather trends as we get closer to the holidays should increase later this week and certainly into next week. All right, I'm up over 10 minutes. That's enough for me tonight. Thanks for watching Weather for Weather Geeks. I will see you back here on Tuesday.